because we still see countries where people would rather invest in 2 more people compared to one lifter, for instance. So let's get some attention around the health and safety and the ergonomic aspect of moving around things inside a data center. Because there's a lot of data, but there's also a lot of people that are working and moving around physical things. So I really hope that the political aspect would increase as well, and we will get some more focus on this. And that's also why when we are exhibiting at trade shows and we see colleagues or competitors, as we can call it, I love that, because we need some awareness in regards to lifting equipment inside the data center as well. Hello, Oliver Bredgaard here from Hovmand at the Data Center Go-to-Market podcast.
Hi, it's Joshua Feinberg, host of the Data Center Go-to-Market podcast, and I'm thrilled to be welcoming a very special guest. Joining me today is Oliver Bredgaard, who is Business Development Manager of Data Centers for Hovmand in Copenhagen, Denmark. Oliver, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Joshua. I've been looking forward to this for many weeks, I can tell.
That's awesome. I've been looking forward to it as well. So, how did you end up working in the data center industry? I noted when I was learning a little bit more about your background, it looked like you'd worked in some kind of lead generation marketing technology. It looked like you have a background in sports management. What was the catalyst that brought you to the data center industry?
Exactly. Yeah, it's a very good question. And to be honest, like you just said, if I imagined maybe 3 or 4 years ago, if I would end up in the data center industry, I would have said no, because to be fair, I didn't even know it existed. So it's quite funny actually. But before joining Hovmand, I was working in a SaaS industry as an account manager, selling software solutions. So my background is very commercial and solution orientated, I would say, always focusing on workflows and efficiency and the long-term customer value. But then I moved back to Denmark. So I've been living abroad for a couple of years, but then I moved back to Denmark, and then I was just searching for some new challenges. And then out of nowhere, this job at Hovmand was seen to be open, and I was actually just applying. And Hovmand is a manufacturer of ergonomic lifting solutions, battery-driven lifters. So it's actually some quite different, because now I'm not selling software, something up in the air or in the cloud, but it's more like a physical product. So going to this job, knowing that now I'm selling something physical, like a battery-driven lifter, were different. And then I think it was actually quite an accident that it ended up being in a data center that my focus should be, because an accident, but also a strategic solution from the management here, I would say. So since I started, my focus has been inside the data center and what is going on, and obviously how we can help our customers make it easier to handle these servers and batteries and heavy equipment inside the data center. So I think this is quite a long introduction, but it's also a funny question, because I have a hard time telling how I ended up in data centers. But I can say that I love it so much, and I think it's very exciting. It's definitely the most dynamic and changing industry I have been in. And I have also been working in the sports industry, and that's also very dynamic. So I think that tells a lot.
Well, in terms of your entree and arrival into the industry, it wasn't always quite as fast-paced. There was a big event that happened at the end of 2022 as OpenAI, as ChatGPT came out, that within 6 to 12 months has caused a lot of the rocket ship, hockey stick kind of exponential growth, probably more used to what you'd see in a SaaS company as opposed to traditionally selling a type of industrial equipment to data center engineers and facilities folks. But yeah, there's a lot of serendipity to your timing of entering this industry at not only this period of rapid growth, but also at a time where increasingly so many buyers are doing so much more research before they get to you, which changes the nature of what they want to spend their time talking about. So given all of that, you're 2 years into now your career at Hovmand. Who have you found to be your ideal clients? Who are the typical stakeholders that you work with most often?
To be fair, there are quite a few, but to list some of them, it would probably be the site manager, a lead technician, someone from the operation team, or the remote hands that we are looking at. But it also depends on what type of customer we are approaching, because if we are talking enterprise data centers, that would probably be one guy in charge of many things and wearing many hats. So this person would probably be in charge or responsible for the facilities, the operations, the procurement, and also vendors. But if we look at the hyperscale clients, then the responsibilities are extremely specialized. So maybe one person would be in charge of the racks or the power or something about the logistics. So it's very different how we approach people and how we sell and how we communicate. So it really depends on what type of buyer persona and job title these people have. So it's quite exciting, I would say.
So it sounds like you're fighting at a high level that when you're selling to an enterprise that has its own data center or data centers, it sounds like it almost has a small business feel to it, where you have one person with a lot of different roles wearing a lot of different hats. And then when you are talking more with a data center operator, like a hyperscale provider or co-location provider, you tend to find larger teams, more segmented responsibilities.
Yeah, exactly. And it's again inside the data center, it's a very highly complex and fast moving industry, and hardware gets just heavier and rack gets denser, and maybe the layout change, which also put on some demands in how we are doing our business and how we approach people. So I would say the real complexity in material handling isn't the lifter itself, but it's understanding the environment we need to work in and the lifter has to work in. But on the other side, the lifter must remain easy to use, so the operators don't want, because the operators, for instance, they don't want this complexity. They want the reliability and the precision, and that's where the architecture of the lifter comes in. So we need to find our way into people, and we need to figure out why they cannot sleep at night. What do they think about, and how can we help them in the best way possible? Yeah, so that process of getting in touch with people can be quite complex, but also very interesting, because there are so many different people and approach.
What have you found to be most surprising about who weighs in on some of these decisions? Who sits on the decision-making committee? Is it typically the person who's using the lifter? Is it their boss? Is it their boss's boss? Who usually is weighing in on the decision to make these kinds of capital investments?
Good question. And again, it really depends from what type of data center you are talking with, because in an enterprise data center, the operator could probably also be the one taking the last decision. But then you go to hyperscale, which means that you will probably need to get in touch with someone from health and safety. Then we need to deliver the lifter, and then the remote hands or the technicians inside the data center would have to test it out, get some feedback to the health and safety manager, and then back to us. If they like what they see and what they use, then probably the health and safety manager need to take it one step further to the management. So there are many different phases in that decision making. Yeah.
Now, when you have these different stakeholders that are involved, does this just change how you customize your overall approach in your sales process? Or have you gotten to the point where you've built out separate lead generation campaigns and messaging and battle card type of assets to be able to really, really dig into the pattern matching with different types of stakeholders that weigh in?
Yeah, so definitely we try to customize our approach to the different decision-making people. So if again it's the health and safety, we would probably focusing on the ergonomic aspect of the lifting. And if we move to the operators or the technicians that are using the lifter, then we would probably talk more about the efficiency and the precision and how we can make the server lifting easier and a one-man operation instead of being 2 or 3 people, because they are probably doing it manually at this point. So there are different approaches, and to be honest, we are still trying to learn and trying to figure out what is the not even selling point, but what is the golden buzzword where we get in touch with people. And again, this industry is just it's very closed. So the way we approach people in other industries, Hovmand is also working within pharma and food, etc. But the way we approach people here is different because it's closed. It's very, very difficult to find a contact person, to find an email address, to find a phone number. So we have been trying to change that way of thinking. In the Hovmand company, we have been exhibiting many, many times at trade shows all over the world. But we see, especially inside the data centers, going to these trade shows, doing an exhibition, be a member of an association like the Danish Data Center Association. That is very important because the first touch point is so much based on networking, etc. So the way of thinking to approach people has also been quite different in this industry compared to others, and that's also very exciting.
One trend that we've noticed over the last 5 years that's affected both SaaS and various parts of the data center ecosystem is people doing so much more research on their own before they get to you. It used to be 10 years ago that they would get about halfway through research and decision making. In the mid 2010s, CEB, Corporate Executive Board, that's now part of Gartner, found that like 57% of a journey was over before they talked to someone like yourself. Now it's like over 80% of the way over. Has this changed how you approach lead generation, how you approach prospecting?
Yeah, exactly. So for us again, it's about getting in contact with that person in real life, get that touch point in person, so we establish the relationship in an earlier phase. Because otherwise, we see it's quite tough to get into the conversation where we can talk about the benefits that we are providing to the data centers as a material handling company.
So
And I
you,
think, yeah, sorry.
it sounds like you're experiencing exactly what everyone is experiencing across the industry, is this buyer centricity and leaning into their preferences.
Yeah, exactly. And I also get a bit surprised sometimes when I speak with all these people, because inside the data center we talk a lot about uptime and redundancy, and we still see technicians manually trying to extract the server on 100 kilos in narrow aisles, and that's just almost impossible. Thank God in the Nordic country, we have some law by government saying that you're not allowed to lift more than 13 kilos, for instance. But it's a risk for both people and the uptime inside the data center, not using the right equipment. Let's say, and you have an accident or you drop a server, they can have a serious consequence for the person doing the operation, but also cost-wise, because these servers are maybe worth millions. So it's quite interesting that the industry is so developed and the pace is growing so fast, but there's still some standard solutions and decision makings that are very old-fashioned, and that's a quite interesting touch point as well as a material handling company.
Yeah, it's quite fascinating that you think of what's populating the data center as a lot of users of generative AI. And yet the buyers, the decision makers seem to think that everyone else is using it, ChatGPT, except for them.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I mean, AI in general, it's obviously a huge topic in data centers, but also as a company working with material handling, we know ourselves how it has changed the way maybe we work on a daily basis, and how we want to benefit from it in the future as well. So yeah, it's very exciting. And on a personal level, the AI helps me maybe prepare better or analyze a customer better, and maybe even communicate more clearly. But it's always as a support. It's not a replacement. It's not a replacement for the human touch point, but it's there to help. And that's again the material handling, the lifters to handle servers and batteries. It's here to help. We need it to make the operation better and more safe and more efficient.
The Data Center Go-to-Market podcast is sponsored by DCSMI, elevating the role of sales, marketing, and go-to-market GTM professionals in the growth of the data center industry. To stay informed about upcoming episodes, make sure that you subscribe to the Data Center Sales and Marketing newsletter on the DCSMI website that can be found at www.dcsmi.com. Again, that URL is www.dcsmi.com.
So you mentioned earlier that you ended up working in the data center industry because you were looking for a new opportunity, but weren't specifically looking for this industry. What advice would you give to someone that's much, much earlier on in their career choice? Maybe they're still in secondary school, they're a teen, maybe it's a brother, sister, neighbor's son or daughter, coworker that's in their teens, and they've heard a little bit about data centers and digital infrastructure. They've certainly been in the news a lot more in the last couple of years than they've been in previous years. But they, like yourself, they don't consider themselves overly technical. They don't see themselves being an engineer or being a software developer. What would you chat about with that person over breakfast or lunch about what career opportunities may look like more on the client-facing side of this industry?
Yeah. So first of all, I would say it's always exciting meeting people nowadays that haven't heard about a data center before. I mean, it's almost impossible, but when it happens, because there are so many topics to talk about, but I would probably just advise them to join a conference, join a trade show, not to sell yourself or anything, but to observe, try to walk the floor, listen to conversation and see what's changing. Because if you're curious about the data center just a little bit, then going to these trade shows like the tech show in London or Frankfurt, some of the bigger one, it's so inspiring because it's not only about AI or the cloud or material handling, it's about everything and how many other industries can benefit from data centers as well. And I think there's a very good learning in just join these conferences and trade shows and then walk around and listen and observe. I mean, I've been working in this industry for, as you said, maybe a couple of years, and I'm still trying to learn and observe and listening because there's so many new topics all the time, and it's really, really exciting. And even if you have been in this industry for 20 years, I'm pretty sure that the industry is evolving so fast that everyone becomes a beginner at some point. Yeah, so definitely sign up for a trade show or write me an email, then I will invite you, and then walk the floor and go listen because it's very exciting. It's very exciting.
Oliver, what do you think is the biggest mistake or oversight that you see others in the industry making, either with how they approach the market or how they deal with sales process or decision makers, especially in your category in material handling, working with facilities related personnel and data centers?
Yeah, good question. And again, I think it's a little bit related to what I said before. Also, when it comes to trying to understand the ecosystem of the data center before you approach people, and try to listen and understand your client's need before you approach them, because it can be quite different. And we see it as well. There are obviously some standard processes, but you also need to be flexible, and you need to be able to adapt to these changes as well. So if you're approaching a client with your product like a sift lifter, of course, listen to the need, but you also need to understand what the problem is and how you can help them in the best way possible. And then again, I mean, we talk about uptime and all this, but we still see people moving around servers on 50 kilos. So for me, it seems obvious you need a lifter, because this is not how you should operate inside a data center for safety and efficiency. But if people are not aware about a lifters even exist, how should we then approach people and tell them that this is the most perfect product in the world if they don't know it exists? So going back to that way of thinking and trying to understand how the clients work, and trying to approach them in a way where they actually see how we can help them and make them benefit from something they are not using yet is yeah, that's quite interesting.
So it sounds like most of the sales processes you run are with companies that don't currently have any kind of lifting solution, and the status quo is basically the company and the individual rolling the dice that no one's going to have a major back injury or literally drop some very, very expensive hardware on the ground.
I mean, it's of course many of the data centers, they already have lifting equipment, which is very good. So we are working with different kinds of and different stages of data centers. So if it is to replace an old lifter, it could be like an infrastructure manager, or just the person in charge of chasing the lifters. If it's a smaller one, like an enterprise data centers that we need to approach. So it's again back to one of the key things in data centers is that most of the buying decisions are rarely made by one person, but they need to go through many different ones. So yeah, it depends from case to case.
Do you have any favorite tools or apps that are really indispensable to what you do on a daily basis, that if someone from your IT department or finance department said, Oliver, we have a problem at this company. We have 600 different SaaS applications that are in use. We're trying to narrow it down. What's on your top 3 list or top 5 list of must-use applications to be as productive as possible?
I mean, first of all, back in 2019, our company Hovmand, they launched this amazing application tool. It's called Virtual Engineering. It's an app you can just log into through our website, for instance. And then you can see all our lifters. You can build them yourself. The way our lifters are working are very much based on the Lego brackets. So it's like we have the leg set, we have the mast, and we have the tool, and then you can pretty much just design your own lifter. And that app is amazing. And then obviously when it comes to my daily work, I have some few apps I'm always using. We have the HubSpot as a CM system. That's obviously also good. Then ChatGPT as well, trying to break down maybe some more complicated stuff, or some articles within this data center industry is also quite good. So that would be some of the tools, definitely.
When you look at what you work on, your daily routines, your weekly routines, I know you mentioned that you're a big fan of attending conferences and local meetups. What do you think may change about where you spend your time over the next 2 years? And what do you think may be the same when you look into your crystal ball about what it takes to be a business development manager in the data center industry?
First of all, I think this industry is very tough to predict. But I think in 2 years from now, we will definitely see even more data centers. That's for sure. It's some of the most exploding and evolving industries in the world. So I think we will see way more companies as well. I think we will see smaller companies trying to find their way into this industry. We will probably see many more companies manufacturing the same things because they want a piece of the big cake. So I don't think it will be boring the next couple of years. What I don't see changing right now is the way we're gonna work in terms of getting in touch with people. Because for me, in an industry that is very much dominated by AI and all these software things where things are getting automated and all the support functions as well, then we need the human relationship. So attending in trade shows and be a part of your association within your country, I think that would be a very good way of approaching the next couple of years. So you will be a part of that network, and you will be able to be around people that have the right knowledge inside this industry.
So it sounds like the big constant is, even as the technology changes, even as conversations around sustainability change, even as new stakeholders emerge, the one constant seems to be that being part of the ecosystem, being part of the local community is incredibly important to success as a business development manager.
Exactly. And then I think and I hope that the political pressure would increase as well, so we get some more focus on ergonomic solutions and health and safety within this industry as well, because we still see countries where people would rather invest in 2 more people compared to 1 lifter, for instance. So let's get some attention around the health and safety and the ergonomic aspect of moving around things inside a data center. Because there's a lot of data, but there's also a lot of people that are working and moving around physical things. So I really hope that the political aspect would increase as well, and we will get some more focus on this. And that's also why when we are exhibiting at trade shows and we see colleagues or competitors, as we can call it, I love that, because we need some brand awareness, or not brand awareness, but we need some awareness in regards to lifting equipment inside the data center as well, because it's important that we take care of people and that we make sure to find the right solution so we can operate these data centers more efficient and more safely.
I think, ironically, if you're looking for a more supportive environment with regulations encouraging people to care more about sustainability, I think you're in a much more supportive part of the world with that relative to the US. I actually had a career salesperson who spent nearly his entire career working for co-location operators on the podcast a month or 2 ago. And we were talking about crazy things he's seen when he's touring data centers, because he's constantly now taking clients around and touring all different kinds of data center operators, because he's been on his own in the last year or two. And he's talking about the story how he went in to tour a facility and there was someone on crutches with a broken leg moving a server. And
exactly.
like
That's
when
what
you
I
talk
mean.
about, and this wasn't a comedy sketch, this was real life. This was a data center operator. I forgot what state it was in. He's based in Arizona, so it may have been somewhere in Arizona in the southwestern United States. And on a tour a couple of years back, he's on a tour and he sees someone on crutches with a broken leg carrying a server around. So there's a lot of work to do to educate people on what's possible in your category.
Yeah, definitely. But I'm happy that at least people are talking a little bit about it. I mean, we have a good case as well. I mean, on our website, you can see a customer case with a 70-year-old man from Denmark, and he's lifting servers around 70 kilos as well. I mean, not alone because he's not capable of doing that, but he's trying to, or at least he was trying to before he got the lifter. So there's so many of these cases, and there are so many data centers as well. And that's why we need to take care of our people and make sure they have the right equipment to handle these servers, because they are heavy and they are only getting heavier.
Yeah, I mean, you had a little bit of career in training in sports management before this, and I think about, like, most people are not athletes that are capable of being able to lift 50, 100 kilos like that on a regular basis. So when you talk about talent shortages, when you talk about having people be able, like the example you gave of someone that's in the later stages of their career continuing to work, I'm sure I'll get heat for saying this, but when they're talking about trying to get more gender diversity in the industry, like making it possible for people that can't lift 100 kilograms when they go to the gym. Maybe they're in good enough shape that they can go on the elliptical or on the treadmill, but yeah, short of being a bodybuilder.
Yeah, exactly. No, I definitely agree. And I will not talk about stereotypes, but I mean, the most technicians or operators, they are not built like rugby players, just like me. I mean, it's tough when you need to lift more than 20 kilos. So yeah, get a lifter, makes it easier.
Gives you superpowers.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Well, Oliver, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today to learn about what it's like to be a business development manager at Hovmand and your career and your tips and best practices to help others that are in a similar place. If someone wants to follow what you're working on, learn more about you, reach out. Is LinkedIn the best place to start?
Yes, definitely. LinkedIn or on our website, that would be the best place to go. Or just, yeah, LinkedIn, that's perfect. And thank you so much for having me. It's my debut in a podcast, so I'm very excited, and it's definitely not the last one, I hope.
I'm very excited that you joined as well. And yeah, we'll include links to your LinkedIn profile and Hovmand's LinkedIn company page and your website for ease of use when people are looking at the blog for this to be able to find you. But yeah, you did fantastic. You're like an old pro already. You got your first experience on a podcast, and happy to have been the first host. And yeah, hopefully we'll be able to have you come back and give an update in a year or two on how your career and other team members are progressing. But yeah, it's been terrific.
I promise you that.
It's terrific. I've been speaking today with Oliver Bredgaard from Hovmand, Business Development Manager in Denmark. Oliver, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you, Joshua.
The Data Center Go-to-Market podcast is sponsored by DCSMI, elevating the role of sales, marketing, and go-to-market GTM professionals in the growth of the data center industry. To stay informed about upcoming episodes, make sure that you subscribe to the Data Center Sales and Marketing newsletter on the DCSMI website that can be found at www.dcsmi.com. Again, that URL is www.dcsmi.com.